Good morning. This is Jack Hirschler, Commissioner. This is the Harbor Management Commission's Mooring Committee meeting on Wednesday, July 15th, 2020 at 10 a.m. All members of the public have been placed into a listen-only mode, and there will be no live public comment during this call following Town of Fairfield procedures. If members of the public have any comments that they'd like to make on today's meeting, they should be emailed immediately after the meeting to me at Sephora@me.com. I'll spell that: Tango, Zulu, India, Papa, Oscar, Romeo, Alpha, Hotel at MikeEcho.com. Let's begin with just a check on who's on the call. Kim, are you on?
I'm here.
And Jeff Stedman?
Here.
And Ed Billings?
I am here.
And Harry French? Okay, Harry French is not with us today. Okay. If you've got the agenda in front of you, the first item on our agenda is a report from the Harbor Master. Ed?
Good morning, everybody. This past month has been primarily focused on some tweaks on the online mooring system. Perry Green moorings need to be updated a little bit. I've reached out to everyone involved. Without boring anybody with all the details, it's a work in progress. An update on the docked vessel letter that I sent was generally met with positivity. I've probably received, I would say, 50+% of the respondents, some of whom do not have any registerable boats on their docks. The others obviously do. The remaining people that need to be contacted are everyone in the Pequot area, and that's in progress too. I've received all those names from Jeff a few days ago, and we'll be emailing them shortly. Let's see, what else? I have had a couple of inquiries, and I'm not sure if you want to do this under new business or include it in my report. I've had a couple of inquiries of people who used to be on the wait list and are questioning as to why they are not currently on there. And I've addressed both parties with pretty much the same information, that they need to either have a canceled check or some type of documentation to verify where they should be on the wait list. So that's where we are with that. I think that's about it. There's been the normal stuff, people not quite sure where their moorings are. They need a little bit of help. Jeff Engborg has been quite helpful in moving boats, especially with our little tropical depression that came through last weekend, as in addition to adjusting some moorings for us. I think that's about it for me.
Can you, with the second item on the agenda, Ed, was the status update on the mooring tackle inspection and maintenance record keeping, working with Pequot, putting those into the online mooring system? Any update there? I don't. I would need to speak with Jeff on that. The last time that we spoke about that, we were trying to get some type of a document so that like an Excel spreadsheet that could easily be transferred into the online mooring system. What both he and I would like to see happen is, basically a carbon copy made of one type of mooring, 5-inch chain, half-inch chain, whatever it is, and then you can, without going into each individual mooring holder, because a lot of that mooring tackle is just repetitive. It's the same thing for a vast majority of the moorings. So I will take that up with Jeff in the next couple of days and see if we can expedite that in any way. And was the spreadsheet that Online Mooring provided going to be helpful in doing that more efficiently, or is there any sort of assessment of that spreadsheet that they gave us?
I believe it will. It's just a case of combining those two documents, what Pequot has, and converting them or adjusting them somehow.
All right. Well, we'll leave that on the agenda for ongoing follow-up until we get that done.
Okay.
Good. And I think you sort of alluded to this, but you had mentioned to me the other day that one of the issues with Online Mooring administratively, it appears that you can't by yourself assign moorings to people if the previous person assigned has been moved from a North Anchorage mooring into one of the town moorings. Putting somebody else then into the North Anchorage is not something that the system's letting you do right now. Is that right?
No. Actually, I had a conversation and email exchange with Jen just yesterday. Yesterday and the day before yesterday regarding that. And I told her exactly who was coming into and who was leaving the North Anchorage. And I told her, this will be something that would most likely happen each year to a greater or lesser extent.
Right.
So something would have to be done versus going through the entire wait list and going that route, which is a little bit laborious.
Right.
So she's working on that behind the scenes and trying to adjust their program.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, this may be something that they have to deliver just as a warranty item, Kim. But I was thinking whether that's the case or not, we need to get this fixed so that it's not it doesn't have to involve Online Mooring every time Ed has one of these situations, because it's going to happen every year, like he says. So we need to just be aware there may be a expense, probably very minor, for programming if they need to fix this. I frankly think it should have been done right in the first place, so it should be a warranty.
Right,
item.
Absolutely. I mean, that's crazy that Ed can't do it. Has to get back to them. That's nuts.
Right.
I agree.
Right. Okay. So more to come on that. Ed's working with them on. I just want you to be aware that it's a
And I mean, the same principle applies because Jeff informed me yesterday, I believe, that there's one member from the North Anchorage will be moving into the marina, and so that will create a vacancy, and I think there's going to be a move involved, so that'll be part of the same program.
Right. Basically,
so
it shouldn't have to involve Online Mooring every time one of these kinds of transactions occurs.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So more to come on that one. Just heads up that there's an outstanding issue there that we're working on. All right. Does anybody have an update? I have not heard more on the Connecticut Deep application for COP for Pequot Yacht Club for the various mooring floats that were not permitted.
No, I don't
Jeff?
know. I could talk with I can call Mr. Rakowski at Race and ask him. I actually talked with a woman who's handling this at Deep last week, but I didn't ask her about this.
Okay. All right.
Like we will probably know. We will have something by the commission's meeting next week. We can know what the status is.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Anything else on that? I don't think so, huh?
No.
The next item on the agenda was just a status update relative to the payment that Parks and Recreation Department, Town of Fairfield, owes for the Perry Green mooring tackle fees for the various moorings that are administered by the Parks and Recreation Department. And I just want to update the group that Betty Gabriel informed me that the money was transferred by the town into the Harbor Management 102 account on June 30th of 2020. So we are all set for this year, and we should make a notation early next spring to pursue that and get that accomplished so it doesn't take until the middle of June. Ed is, as he mentioned, working on having the administrative system reflect those credits for those mooring tackle fees for each of the affected moorings, and that's in the works right now.
Good.
Okay.
This is Jeff. A question. Someone raised this the other day. How do people get to their boats from Perry Green? Do they climb down a ladder? How do they do that?
Yeah, there's a ladder on one side of the green towards Lev Smith area. There's a ladder there, and I'm pretty sure at high tide you can just retrieve your boat right from the wall. And then
somebody. Then the reason that raised that is someone mentioned the bad condition of the bulkhead at Perry Green. I mean, that's not our
it is bad.
responsibility, but you wonder if someone could get hurt there or fall into a hole, but it's really in bad condition. Maybe at some point we should talk with Public Works, and I'm sure they don't have any money to fix it, but it's not it just doesn't seem to be a safe or it's a potentially unsafe situation.
I would imagine a study would have to be done, either by RACE or a similar organization to determine how bad that sheathing is, especially below the waterline. But generally it's preserved below the waterline. But there's a couple of different ways you could address the problem, but it would involve removing all of those moorings, of course, and then bringing in a pile driver or something like that to drive the new sheeting down.
And there are voids behind the
yes.
sheeting.
Yeah,
which is what I was immediately thinking about.
Is that Justin Cathcart's, the Perry Green moorings? Does he pay attention to that? Is there any specific person at Parks and Rec who does? Do you know, Ed?
I don't honestly know, Kim.
Okay.
I can check with him, but.
Well, and I guess the same to digress just a bit. I guess I have the same question about Ye Yacht Yard. Is there a person at Parks and Rec who's in charge, or is it just kind of the rec department generally? Do we know?
I think it should be Justin, because I know that not his immediate predecessor, but Mr. Bimmel prior seemed to be the person that had responsibility for both of those facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can check with Justin, but I would imagine I'd imagine it would be him. He's this, I forget his title, but it used to be marina manager, so I assume that's his responsibility.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. He takes care of all of the mooring permits down there, or dinghy permits. So.
Okay.
Before we go to new business, I did check our system. Ed, we're showing 116 approved permits as of this morning, and as of this morning, 57 people are on the waiting list. 7 waiting list applications are under review at this point. So that's a sort of a summary of mid-season status of where we are at this point with respect to the system.
Yep.
I did not receive any emails from the public in advance of this meeting for new business items for us to discuss. Does anybody have any new business?
I would like to just mention that we saw one Sunday as we were leaving the harbor a group on the boat Driftwood, which is moored along the east wall out there by the how can I describe it? By the not quite as far south as the town dock. They were swimming off their transom, and given the epidemic of swimmers in the harbor this summer, I'm wondering if we want to send a notice to all mooring holders that they're not supposed to be in the water in the harbor. Only the boat is supposed to be in the water, something like that.
Right. It says for maintenance in the town code, so that's the exception.
Right. Well, this was a family with a couple of young kids, and they were definitely playing.
Right.
Is that right by the break in the two mooring systems? Like the two orange balls. There's the proper name escapes me. The culvert that goes, the drainage culvert.
Yeah, it's right around that corner, that area where there's almost a corner. Yeah. And the boat's name is.
And I think I had mentioned to you, I saw some kids that were dismounted from their paddle boards and swimming around in that area as well, with adults watching them. So I'm not sure if it was the same vessel, but it's not okay.
Yeah. Well,
if I had a boat, I could patrol a lot more often.
Well, it's an epidemic down there. I get two or three pictures a day from people of kids jumping off the lower wharf, kids running and heaving themselves off the green, kids jumping in from the yacht yard right there where the benches are, where the fishermen are. It's really quite mind-blowing, the number of the police have been called. The police have expressed desire to help, but when you call them, you get a voicemail. It's just Sam has put up two signs that both have disappeared within hours of them being posted.
Wow.
Clearly, it's going to need to be a more formal signage with the town installing something permanent.
So, I mean, both.
Is it possible to put?
Yes.
Sorry,
go ahead,
I was going to say, is it possible to make a metal sign? It doesn't have to be too extravagant, but if you used some of the very flexible stainless steel wire and press fitted it to the chain at the entrance, you'd need bolt cutters to get it off.
Well, I think that's a great idea, and I think we're going to have to, in our meeting on next Tuesday, discuss some of the various ways that we can, at least post that it's not okay to be swimming there. The Conservation Department and the Department of Parks and Rec are willing to help us post the signs, but it's really, I think, kind of on us to figure out where and to figure out what. And sadly, I don't think that's really going to matter. I think the kids will probably still continue to jump and somersault and do all that. But
there needs to be a notice to let people know, and then after that, it's up to us to police it. But
exactly.
Police it. But I agree with you. I think that if we're going to be posting signs, we shouldn't have boaters having kids swimming either. So it seems like that's another thing we might need to include in an email from the harbor master to all the people with permits, so that they are aware of the rule. Because I just think people may just not be aware of the town code.
I'd like to believe that. Yeah. I'd like to believe that the adults are not aware. The kids, I think, know, because the police have spoken to a group of them, and they pretty much swim across the channel and sit on the country club side and laugh, and then the police disappear and they come back and do it again. So that's another issue, but I just raised the issue of the mooring holders knowing, and perhaps informing the mooring holders that they when they come in and out of the harbor and they get into that lower wharf part by the lower wharf where it's so narrow that they can call the police if they think it's a dangerous situation. It's not because we don't want an accident, and we would like a bigger police presence, I think.
Right. I mean, speaking for myself, a 24,000-pound vessel moving underway is not instantly stopping if some kid is leaping off of the pilings and into the into that fairway.
Yeah.
Right. I have one picture of the kids leaping off into the fleet of 420s and Optis heading out of the harbor for the PYC Junior program. So it's like, yikes.
Not good.
Well, they were sailing out or being towed out? Not that it makes much
I
of a
believe
difference,
in this
but,
picture they were being towed out.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
I mean, not that it's not fun to do, but
this is just a safety issue.
Right.
Yes.
I think it must be hugely fun to do. I think, but and I'm sure But I mean, the Guardian Yacht Yard reports that mothers are dropping kids off. Some of the parents are videotaping them. I just.
Oh wow.
And then
I
there's
wasn't aware
another
of that.
whole. Yeah, and then there's another whole group that is swimming in the sort of the little cutout area across just south of the launching ramp. So it's become a cool place to hang out this summer.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't recall this being an issue in the past. This is just the new thing this year.
No. I mean, there were dogs swimming off by the dock, but that was about it.
Right. All right, so we're going to discuss this with the full Harbor Management Commission next week, I guess.
Right.
Okay. Are there other new business
I have
items?
one question, Jack. Minor one. I updated the presentation on the harbor and the harbor management plan, and I attempted to put in the number of mooring permits issued this year. And I think you mentioned earlier it was 116, or maybe Ed mentioned that.
No, currently approved in the system are 116. Yeah.
Yes.
On the online mooring website, there's with the list of mooring spaces. And I didn't call it up on my computer beforehand, but there were 154 entries. I'll go back and look at it again, but there were 57 names on the waiting list, but then on the mooring permit part of the system, there were 154 entries. What accounts for that?
I mean, we can do a reconciliation of these. We certainly can generate a list off the system of the approved permits and reconcile that with the.
Okay, so maybe some of them are not approved, or it's not an urgent thing.
That's true. Now there are a number that have not been 100% approved yet.
7.
All right.
Yeah, 7 are under review. Yeah, and then there's
that wouldn't get us to
the 9 that are at Perry Green are showing up in an unknown category that Ed is working on right now, so that accounts for another 9.
There's 10 there. I don't think there's 30. I mean, basically, the rough number is 30 as a difference.
It isn't probably super complicated for us to reconcile these, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's a good idea for us to do that. The other thing that comes to mind is that in the system, I suspect that they're counting these docked vessel information reports as counted somewhere in this thing also. So we may have some of those to take into consideration potentially as we reconcile this.
Yeah. Here I called it up on the list here. It's got on the left column it says mooring number, and it begins with number 1, 420 dock, and then it goes through the last. There's several pages of this stuff. but the last mooring number listed here is actually 156, but 155 and 156 are listed as well, I take it back, because there are some here that are listed as unavailable. Unavailable. Oh, no, transient status is unavailable. I see. But there's 156 mooring, whatever you call it, mooring numbers identified.
Mm-hmm. So could that possibly include the ideal docks, the 420 dock, and
yes.
the
yes.
Yep. And the
it
dinghy dock.
That. All right. So
that's
the
everybody that ever indicated that they're in the harbor, basically.
Yeah, here's like number 19. The mooring status is pending. I see what occupied. Well, anyway, I didn't mean to take your time on that. I'll put in 116 for our presentation as of now.
Right. There are 4 that Ed and I have discussed that are North Anchorage permit holders who are missing required documents, and Ed is working to get them. But here we are in the middle of July, and we have permits that were not issued to 4 North Anchorage vessels.
Wow.
If somebody from the North Anchorage goes to the marina, and then there's a North Anchorage space available for someone's relocating, would that person be relocating from outside of the anchorage, and that would free up a spot from the waiting list?
If they're
all, could you say that again?
If they're all Pequot people, they're not. It's not freeing up a spot on the waiting list. If they're going into a town mooring, it frees up a spot. But if they're going into the marina, into a slip, that doesn't change anything on the waiting list.
But if someone takes their spot, if someone from the yacht club is going into the North Anchorage to take the space of the person going to the marina,
right?
Is that person coming from outside of the North Anchorage from a mooring to go into the North Anchorage?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways to look at that. I mean, there used to be a floater status, which we're trying to get away from. So if someone was a floater, that person would, I would imagine, go to that mooring. I mean, it's totally up to Pequot's management team to discern that. Or they might have other members on their own waiting list for an available North Anchorage mooring to become available. So I mean, we really have. I don't believe we have any way of knowing who will go to the newly vacant mooring. If that makes any sense.
In the North Anchorage, right?
In the North
Anchorage, yes.
But
just to be clear, there aren't any floaters. There's no floater list. We got rid of the permits for floater vessels a couple of years ago, at least.
Right.
And there is no such thing. So 14 days a year, and that's it. In the North Anchorage, and 3 days in the town moorings is the amount of time a vessel that's a transient can be in the harbor.
Right.
Right, 17 days.
Right.
What's the 17 days for?
It's 16 days, right? 13 days is in the North Anchorage, and 3 on a town mooring, on the guest mooring.
I don't know that they're additive. It doesn't sound. That's not the way the thing is written in the rules and procedures. You suggest they could move from the North Anchorage into a town mooring as a transient?
No, I'm just saying as a total of the. No. Although there was a situation that Norman Marsilius recalled where somebody was on the transient mooring for the whole summer, and then came back and claimed that they had a mooring in the harbor and wanted a permit the next year, wanted their permit, quote, renewed.
I mean, That's just a failure to follow our own rules with respect to the 3-day limit for transients in the town moorings and 14 days. Or is it 13 nights? I forget what the wording is.
13 nights, I think it is.
13 nights in the North Anchorage. So we're not looking for folks to be circumventing our permitting process and all the other requirements we have for permitted vessels.
Right. Right.
Okay. Any other new business for today? All right. Can we adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move. Kim moves.
Second. I'm not sure we have enough for a second. We'll adjourn. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jack.
We'll talk to everybody next week in the full Harbor Management Committee meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Super. Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Be safe.